So I've always said that the book of Revelations repeats itself. I know I get a lot of flack for that. So I've been planning on making this video for a while, and I'm going to make this video today. And I'm going to show you that the book of Revelations repeats itself. We're going to start on chapter 6 and 13. Chapter 6, we have the four horsemen. The white horse represents peace, but he goes out to conquer. So that's like yin yang. This is the Antichrist. Calls for peace, but goes out and conquers, takes your oil, takes your gold, whatever. The red horse, this has been coming together for a long time now. We call this the BRICS nations. These are all the red nations. These are all the nations that fight against each other. Chapter 13 explains a little better. Who kills by the sword will be killed by the sword. Who leads into captivity will be led into captivity. This is all talking about war, and then we see the results of war, the black horse and the pale horse. We also see down in chapter 13 of chapter 6, verse 13, stars fell to earth, and if we look at 13:13, the beast makes fire come down from heaven. Now we have more proof of this, who this actually is. If we look at chapter 13, verse 11, we see that a new beast comes out of the earth who makes an image to the first beast, which was a seven-headed dragon, which is Europa. It was Europe, named after Europa, the woman who rode the beast. And so we see that this second beast with the two horns, Texas and Florida, made an image to the first beast, the seven-headed beast, which was all the world's powers throughout time, and that's called the United Nations. We know that the United Nations is an image to the world powers. Now we can move on to chapter 7 and 14. The similarities here is it's talking about the 144,000. Both of these chapters are talking about the 144,000. They're very similar. Now, in chapter 7, we see that an angel came down and cried with a very loud voice. And if we look at 14, verse 7, he was saying with a very loud voice. It's almost the identical verbiage. Now, if we go to chapter 8 and 15, we see the same thing. Chapter 8, the angels preparing with trumpets. In chapter 15, they're preparing with vials, and they're going to spill. This is the wrath of God. And so 8 starts with the stars coming down and burning mountain cast into the sea. Chapter 15, the sea became as blood. Chapter 8, the stars fell on the river. Chapter 15, the rivers became as blood. Chapter 8, trumpet and the sun, and in the vial, the scorchment of fire from the sun. So it's all very similar. And then at the bottom we see that the angel descends with the key to the bottomless pit, and then in the other chapter 15 we also see the same thing, the seed of the beast. And so extremely similar. Then we can move on to chapters 9 and 16. Chapter 9, they loosed the angels from the river Euphrates. Chapter 16, and the waters of the Euphrates dry up. Chapter 9, the number of the army was 200 million. Chapter 16, and they were gathered in Armageddon. Same thing, same thing. It's repeating itself. Now we can move on to chapter 10 and 18. And in chapter 10, we see a mighty angel. In chapter 18, having great power. Now, if you look at the bottom of chapter 10, it says, and he said unto me, thou must prophesy again before many people, nations, and tongues, and kings. So chapter 10, verse 11 tells you, you must prophesy again. This is where it repeats. This is where it starts over. And so if you go to chapter 11, it talks about the birth of Yeshua, Jesus. And then we begin all over again. So this is my proof. You can go read these verses side by side, and that's why I put them like this. So you can see this. It's a very short time. We're already 3.5 years into it. We had the peace deal January 1st, 2020. We had Israel go to war 3.5 years later, exactly. And now we're entering World War III. And this is going to be the black horseman, and then comes the pale horseman. It's not something that happened a long time ago. These very similar, same thing taking place. It all fits together. I could put all of these verses into one set of verses that it would be exact same verbiage. It's not different. There's a few difference trumpets to vials and stuff like that, but I'm telling you, it's the same story, and we're halfway through it.